Once upon a time, in a dense forest called Oakwood, there lived a clever fox named Felix. He was an orphan, raised by a kind-hearted owl named Olivia. From a young age, Felix had always been fascinated by the idea of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, an idea that Olivia had instilled in him. She had told him stories of the legendary Robin Hood, a human thief who had done the same in the distant past. As Felix grew older, he began to hone his thieving skills and quickly became known throughout Oakwood as a master thief. He would steal from the wealthy animals, such as the powerful deer King Rudolph, and give to the poor animals who were struggling to make ends meet. One day, while Felix was out on one of his thieving expeditions, he came across a group of animals who were being mistreated by King Rudolph and his wealthy allies. The animals were being forced to pay exorbitant taxes, leaving them barely able to afford food for themselves and their families. Felix was outraged by this injustice and knew he had to do something to help these animals. He rallied a group of his animal friends, including a loyal badger named Bruno, a skilled archer rabbit named Hazel, and a clever raccoon named Riley, to form a band of thieves. Together, they began stealing from King Rudolph and his wealthy allies, redistributing the stolen goods to the poor animals in Oakwood. As Felix and his band of thieves continued to steal from the rich and give to the poor, their reputation began to grow. More and more animals began to join their cause, including a brave lion named Leo, a wise old owl named Olivia, and a fierce panther named Panthera. King Rudolph, however, was not pleased with Felix and his band of thieves. He saw them as a threat to his power and wealth and vowed to put an end to their thievery. He assigned his most trusted guard, a fierce bear named Grizzly, to lead a hunting party to track down and capture Felix and his band of thieves. Grizzly and his hunting party were no match for Felix and his band of thieves. They were quick and clever, always one step ahead of the hunters. They used the knowledge of the forest to their advantage, evading capture and continuing to steal from the rich to give to the poor. As Felix's reputation grew, more and more animals began to support his cause, and soon a rebellion began to form against King Rudolph and his wealthy allies. Felix and his band of thieves used the stolen goods to fund the rebellion and to provide for the poor animals of Oakwood. The rebellion was fierce, but Felix and his band of thieves were determined to overthrow King Rudolph and establish a fair and just government for all animals in Oakwood. They were joined by animals from all over the forest, each with their own skills and strengths, and together they were able to defeat King Rudolph and his allies. With King Rudolph's downfall, a new government was established, led by a council of animals elected by the people. Felix was hailed as a hero and was appointed as the leader of the council. He worked tirelessly to improve the lives of all the animals in Oakwood, implementing fair taxes, creating jobs, and building schools and hospitals. The animals of Oakwood lived happily ever after, with Felix and his band of thieves remembered as the animal heroes of Oakwood. They were revered for their bravery, cunning, and selflessness in the face of oppression. Felix and his friends continued to lead the council and govern the forest, ensuring that all animals had a fair and just life. Years passed and Felix grew old, but he never forgot the lessons he had learned from Olivia and the importance of helping those in need. He passed on these teachings to the next generation of animals, ensuring that the legacy of Robin Hood lived on in Oakwood. As Felix grew older, he began to worry about who would take over his role as leader of the council once he was gone. He knew that it was important for Oakwood to have a strong leader who would continue to fight for the rights of the poor and oppressed animals. One day, a young fox named Robin came to Oakwood. He was an orphan, just like Felix had been, and he had heard stories of Felix's legendary deeds. He was determined to follow in Felix's footsteps and make a difference in the world. Felix saw something of himself in the young fox and took him under his wing, mentoring him and teaching him everything he knew about thievery and leadership. Under Felix's guidance, Robin became a skilled thief and a natural leader. As Felix's health began to fail, he knew it was time to pass on the mantle of leadership to Robin. He appointed him as his successor, entrusting him with the responsibility of leading the council and continuing to fight for the rights of the poor and oppressed animals in Oakwood. Robin took on the role of leader with determination and courage. He continued Felix's legacy, leading the council and the rebellion against the rich and powerful animals who sought to oppress the poor. He was a fierce and just leader, loved and respected by all animals in Oakwood. With Robin at the helm, Oakwood continued to thrive. The poor animals were provided for, and the government was fair and just. Robin and his band of thieves, now known as the Oakwood Outlaws, were celebrated as heroes, and Robin's reputation as a leader and Robin Hood-like figure spread far and wide. And so, the legacy of Robin Hood lived on in Oakwood, thanks to Felix's teachings and the leadership of Robin, who honored his mentor's legacy and made sure that all animals had a fair and just life in the forest.